If Matt Rule's going to compete with coaches like Luke Fickell, Deion Sanders, Brett Bielema, and Jim Harbaugh, it all starts with recruiting. And signing day is almost always a positive experience in Lincoln, but with a new head coach coming off 3 losing seasons in the NFL, I can understand why some fans are skeptical and why they're tempering expectations. The priority's been made clear. Win the state, focus on high school players with NFL attributes, and find a few diamonds in the rough who can over-deliver. But in this new era with over 1,000 experienced players in the transfer portal, at least somewhat experienced, this staff can't afford to neglect some of the proven talent ready to make an instant impact next season. I've still got more questions than answers, and it's going to take a few weeks to sort them out. But today, I'm breaking down Matt Rule's first week of recruiting, and we'll talk about some of the transfers out and guys this staff's going after. But what's up, guys? I'm Connor Hayden, and this is Corn Crazed. If you're a fan of Nebraska or the Big Ten, make sure you hit the subscribe button below so that you don't miss any of my breakdowns. And if you're ready or hopeful for a big portal haul, hit the like button now to help us get to 1,000. But now, let's get into it.
Yet across midfield. Touchdown, Nebraska. Omar Manning.
I see a lot of questions about the coaching staff, but there hasn't been too much info put out about these next hires. The spots that still need to be filled are quarterbacks, receivers, offensive line, linebackers, and defensive coordinator. And there's a good chance that Rule might already have his DC and Mike Saravo from the Panthers, who's currently the run game coordinator and the linebackers coach, but that's just a guess, and I've got no way of knowing if that's actually who he's locked in. And I did see Sean Callahan mention that he thought this could be a possibility too, so maybe it's more realistic than I thought. A couple days ago, Rule told a recruit that the offensive line coach hasn't been chosen yet, but that it's down to Raiola and 3 other names. And I'm not sure if he's still holding out hope that Dylan could potentially flip, or if they see something in Donovan that we weren't able to after just 1 year with Frost staff, but either way, I'm going to trust that he's making the right decision. I had assumed he'd want to get the staff locked in to help him sell recruits the full picture, but if he's going to go after NFL guys, I guess we're just going to have to wait until January. We'll break this video up into 2 parts for high school recruiting and the transfer portal. I'll talk about the commits and the decommits, and then we'll talk about the players leaving the program and some of the targets. I can't talk about every guy on the board since there are way too many, so I'll just stick to the new guys or the ones who are in question. As of today, the class ranks 62nd nationally with only 12 total commits, so let's start off with who's already been committed and where they stand today. First off is Malachi Coleman, who's been the #1 target for over a year now. He decommitted after Mickey's situation, but now that he's had an in-home visit with Rule, I feel pretty good about him signing in February. He's looking for a reason to stay close to home, not a reason to leave, but if he does visit Michigan or OU like I'm sure he's planning to, this could go any direction. The only committed QB in this class is Pop Watson, who's a 3-star from Massachusetts, but he was Whipple's guy. Sean Callahan reported that the new staff hasn't had any in-person contact with him yet, so if I had to make a prediction, I'm going to guess they're going a different direction. And tight end Ben Bramer was the 7th highest rated player in the state and would have been a huge get, but a visit from Rule this weekend wasn't enough, and he just announced that he's going to Iowa State. I did see a rumor that his dad might be getting a job in their football office, but either way is a big loss, even though it was expected. And last is linebacker Hayden Moore, who's the 6th best player in Colorado. He was being recruited by Barrett Ruud and committed back in June, but now that the staff flipped, it sounds like Texas A&M's on his radar, and I'd expect him to decommit from Nebraska after he takes that visit. There hasn't been much news with anybody else already part of this class, so we'll move over to the new offers made over these last few days. First is Benny Nagoy from Lincoln, who's had a non-committable offer from the past staff, but got an in-person visit from Matt Rule this week. He's 6'4" and can play multiple positions, and he looks like the type of player this staff would usually take on to develop since he's got the size and speed that makes for NFL talent. He's been committed to Iowa State, but I wouldn't be surprised if he flipped in the next couple weeks if the staff made him feel like a priority. Quentin Ives is a running back receiver from New Jersey that just got offered and just got a visit from the new running backs coach, so it sounds like he's a serious target. His only D1 offer came from Temple, so the odds are pretty good that he ends up in Lincoln. But again, this staff goes after the guys who can be developed and turned into pro prospects, so the low recruiting ranking isn't a big deal to them. Prince Will Yu, I got no idea how to pronounce that last name, is the highest rated recruit I've seen this staff go after so far. He's a 6'4", 225-pound edge rusher from Texas with offers from Arizona State, Arkansas, and Florida. And he hasn't committed anywhere yet, so if he's still in play, maybe there's a chance that Rule could get a commitment after that dude visits campus this weekend. And last is the first commitment for this new staff, Bryce Turner. He's a 6'2" receiver from Texas with an offer from Prairie View A&M, and he was already being recruited by Nebraska to run track. His 100 times 10.25, making him one of the fastest recruits in the entire country and probably puts him in the 4.340 range. For reference, Trey Palmer ran a 10.42, Reggie Bush ran a 10.3, and Deshaun Jackson ran a 10.24. As a football player, he ended with 700 total yards and 8 touchdowns this year, but Turner has a ton of natural ability, and if this staff can develop him, he'll be able to go one-on-one with anybody from Ohio State or Michigan. And there will be a lot more offers going out the rest of this week, so I'll have to make another video highlighting the top commitments in this class a couple weeks from now, or maybe we'll just do a live stream and talk about them on there. But let's hop over to the portal and talk about some of the Nebraska players who've entered so far. Real quick before we do, I just want to remind you that the merch site's live till the end of the month, so if you want to support the channel, I've got a 25% off discount for you at checkout. Just enter GBR and then you'll get 25% off anything you order. Anything you buy goes back into supporting the growth here, and it helps me to make more content. So if you haven't tried the hoodies yet, I wear them every day and the quality's amazing. And today's sponsor for our video is BroThrow, the #1 peer-to-peer sports betting platform, and actually, I think they're the only one. I took the Saints +3 last night and I barely covered after Brady's crazy comeback, and now I'm up over $1,000 since I made my account in October. Bowl season's coming up and we got plenty of NFL left, so if you want to make bets easy without having to make a cash deposit, without having to link a bank account or wait to hit a minimum amount to make a withdrawal, head to brothrow.com/GBR to join our 700-ish member group on the site. And BroThrow's available in all 50 states, and you just have to be 18 plus to use it. So if you haven't made an account yet, but you use other sites to bet on sports, just try it once so you can at least save the 10% on the VIG since BroThrow's not a sports book. Now let's get back to the portal. Yesterday when the portal opened, we saw 722 players go in, which was 500 more than opening day last season. 63 quarterbacks entered, and there's about 250,000 snaps of experience ready to make an impact somewhere else. So at this point, every team has to utilize it. And surprisingly, we haven't seen that many Nebraska players enter yet, but that could change tomorrow or Thursday, so we're just going to have to wait and see. So far, 9 guys entered, but only a couple big names. Linebacker Ernest Hausman, who's going to get some big-time offers like USC, Michigan, or Texas. I don't think there's any way he changes his mind and comes back at this point. And then there's Brant Banks, who played a bit but never established himself as a starter, and I think he'll probably end up at a G5 school like Tulsa or Nevada to compete for some more playing time. And last is Jaden Gould, who is a 4-star corner from Jersey. He ended up at Nebraska after he tore his ACL in high school, and USC ended up backing off late in the process. Nebraska wasn't his only option, but they weren't the first choice either. The fear a lot of fans have is losing Malcolm Hartzog, A.J. Allen, Garrett Nelson, or any other big-time contributor who showed promise and would be a starter next season. I did see that Anthony Grant posted on Instagram telling a former Florida State receiver to come to Nebraska, so that gave me a lot of confidence that we're going to at least get him back for his final year. And I would have thought after today at least 3 more big names entered, but the more time that passes, the more I think guys are just going to wait until spring to see if they're a fit, and they won't dip out unless they don't have a chance at significant playing time. The new staff spotted the early entrants and already got to work looking for some day one starters, so let's get into the portal targets Nebraska's already shown interest in. We'll start with the biggest name out there, and that's Devin Leary from NC State. He's the #1 QB in the portal with 3 years of starting experience, a 62-16 TD to interception ratio, and almost 7,000 yards passing. Leary's as proven as it gets, but Ohio State, Notre Dame, Georgia, and pretty much any other big-time program would make him their #1 target too. Multiple staff members started following him the other day, and I have to assume Rule's exploring the idea of other QBs if Casey is going to have shoulder surgery, because that would keep him out of spring ball, but it might be too early to start making assumptions. At this point, Leary's just a dream and nowhere close to reality. Next is former Iowa receiver Keegan Johnson, who was just offered by K-State, Nebraska, and Notre Dame yesterday. And as a true freshman at Iowa, he had 18 catches for 350 yards, but he ended up getting hurt early on this year, so he had to sit out the rest of the way. He's a Nebraska legacy, a for sure NFL talent, and he would start immediately. I'm just not too sure that he'll want to risk his second chance on anything but a sure thing. Texas A&M's lost more to the portal than anybody, and the staff's already confirmed a visit for Elijah Judy, who's a former four-star defensive end from A&M who didn't get a chance to play in his first 2 seasons. Losing O'Shawn and not knowing Garrett's future means this would be a huge pickup, and he'd probably be a guy who's competing for snaps at D-end year 1. Charlotte receiver Elijah Spencer went for over 900 yards and 9 TDs this year and just entered the portal. And right after he did, he picked up a Twitter follow from OC Marcus Satterfield. He's a 2-year starter with over 1,300 total yards and 15 touchdowns. So South Carolina and the other SEC schools are probably going to go after him hard, but I'm pretty certain this staff wants another deep threat after back-to-back years with Teray and Palmer shredding the Big Ten defenses. Tight end Jaheim Bell from South Carolina has 2 years of eligibility left and kind of reminds me of Ethan Carter. He's followed by Nebraska recruiting and by Satterfield, which probably means he sees a way to plug Bell into this new offense. In 2 years at South Carolina, he ran for 300 and had 750 receiving yards with 10 total touchdowns. He has 200-plus yard games, was a preseason All-SEC pick, and he could be a matchup problem since he can line up at fullback, tight end, or receiver. And after losing Vokalek and Brewington, I'd love to see Rule bring in a proven tight end to go along with a healthy Thomas Fidone. Andre Carter was a dominant D-end at Western Michigan this year, and he finished with 70 tackles, 7 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and an interception. He's got offers from Auburn, Ole Miss, Notre Dame, and a few others, but he's a day one starter anywhere he goes, so I'm guessing whichever school he chooses is going to be the one that has the coach that gives him the most confidence that he can get developed into a big-time NFL draft pick. Last year, I had no problem pointing out what guys in the portal were perfect fits for the offense and who could help Shenander on D. But I understood what that staff was looking for after years of recruiting. It's harder to predict with Matt Rule since he's only been a Big Ten coach for about a week. And I still think they'll do okay this recruiting cycle, and with so many guys in the portal desperate for an opportunity, the transfer class should work itself out by January. But from what I'm seeing so far, it's just not going to be flashy. And that's okay. Because from a national perspective, this hire was a little underwhelming. You put Rule side by side with Dion and Fickle, and of course, he's not going to win the recruiting battles year 1 since he hasn't coached in college since 2019. History tells us a slow start was to be expected and that we just need to trust this process, so that's what I'm going to do. I'll keep monitoring the portal and the recruiting class as a whole, and I'll make sure I post my reactions and updates as things happen, but I want to know what you think, so let me know in the comments below. Does this class have a chance to finish top 40, or is this staff being hired later in the cycle going to hold Nebraska back? And are you expecting any big-name portal additions like we saw last year from Frost and Mickey, or does Rule need a year to remind people how good a coach he really is? And do you think next year's success is tied to this recruiting class, or can they get away with one-off year as long as they retain some of last year's players? I guess there's enough talent on the roster to hit 6 wins, but a good portal haul would be nice to add to the competition. I'll be back with another video later this week, so until then, thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Go Big Red.